All right, you guys, welcome to Miracles, Magic, and Coffee. I'm so excited you're here. We're going to be talking with Dr. Tom in a little bit about something that I think is really, really important and right in the moment of what's going on. And it has to do with letting go of grief and sadness and despair and connecting to a joy of life. Can you have a joy of life with all the stuff going on right now? So I am putting this in your portal. So if you're on our list, you should be getting an email right about now. And let's just put that one in here. And I think we're good to go. Let me just check it just to make sure. Let's see, and it looks good to go. Okay, so welcome everybody. Ralph Havens here. Jen is out in the garden. So she's always with us in spirit, but a lot of times she can't join us because she's taking care of our two little dudes. But I'm glad you're here. So if you're watching on YouTube live, you can put a comment in there and let us know what you're going through. I'd love to hear what you're going through, and if you have any questions for me or Dr. Tom Giammatteo, one of my mentors for many years, and a friend and colleague, and we help each other out a lot. And if you want to ask him any questions, let me know. So let's see. We're going to talking about joy and letting go of grief, sadness, despair. I was misspelled that one. Despair. Join us now. Okay, so here we go. We're on duty. We're good to go. Yeah, so let's see when Dr. Tom comes on. I was, while we wait for Tom, he's so generous to join us every week. And I had a great time yesterday with a friend of mine who's a Vietnam vet. And he's been through a lot. He told me how he was, he went into the Navy, and then he was shipped off to the Philippines, and he was only 17 years old. And so he had a kind of a cush life over there. They had to wait till he was 18, I guess. And he went to 18 years old, and he went shipped straight to Vietnam. And his stories, they're amazing to listen to and inspiring. And you're like watching a movie, listening to what happened to him and how it went and what he was on. He was on one of those like PT boats traveling around in the jungles. And to this day, he doesn't want to be in a hot place like that anymore. So you can understand why. But he had some things happen where he was blown up, and crazy stuff that it's only by the grace of God that he made it through. And he's kind of talking to me now that he might be sharing with us stories, because what he's done is amazing. He's rebuilt his entire body, and he's the happiest guy you'd ever meet. He was a SWAT officer later in the police, and he's just an amazing guy, even with all these crazy times. And he was showing me an exercise. I put it on my our Beyond Limits YouTube page group yesterday, and it was awesome because he showed us about breathing, and he does something for breathing and a bunch of exercise. He does like some crazy cool exercises. So we'll get him on later. But it made me think about today was the lungs, because he had some techniques to get the lungs really to breathe. And Dr. Tom was talking to us earlier about how in other episodes, how the lungs, I think, are 70% of our detox. And when an IMT model, or integrated manual therapy model, we think of the lungs as a place for joy and also for letting go of grief and sadness and despair. So I wanted to reach out to Tom because right now, I've seen an ABC report that suicide attempts are up 1,200%. And we just got a message that some really tough messages to hear from our friends on Facebook about some stuff that's happened recently. And so it's like I thought, let's talk to Tom about an integrated manual therapy approach and accessible ways to work on our lungs. So let's see, I think Tom should be able to see me, but I don't see him. Let's see.
I don't have a camera.
Oh, okay, so so it's not on our end?
It's not showing up as,
Let me just see.
mic speakers. I don't have my video camera.
Let's see. Let me see if I can change anything on my end. I thought I put it on. How do I do this?
Let me try to call in with my phone, Ralph. So let's see if that works too.
Yeah, Tom should be on in a second. I think I've got it on correctly.
I need a password, Ralph.
You need a password?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I must have
Just
done
go up into the right-hand corner and you'll see it.
I will.
It should give you your password.
Let's see. See the password thing. View settings. Let me go back into my Zoom. Hang on. Sorry about all this. Let's see. Zoom. I must have not clicked out of the password thing. Okay, so password.
So working on my end too here, buddy.
We'll figure it out. Let's see. Oh, I do have required. Let me go. I'll just give you the password. Okay. So it's 700
Hold on a second, Ralph. One more second. 823. Okay, what's the password?
700519.
Seven zero zero 519.
Yeah.
There we go.
Let's see. Now to talk.
Okay.
Now I'll go ahead and mute the other one. Oh, you got rid of the other one. Okay.
Yep.
So I wonder why
It's
that's.
been a difficult day all around. So
Well, no wonder we have. It's interesting. Well,
I can see you. I still.
I've got video allowed. Let's see. Well, let me promote you to panelist. We always, that seems to be something that helps sometimes.
Okay.
Oh, I see something. Ask to start video. There we go. I guess I got to remember that. You think we would do, it's kind of like when daylight savings comes around or when the sun starts to go down earlier, everybody acts the same way. They're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe the sun's going down so early. It's like it happens
Right.
every time. And it's the same with this. Is like I promote you to panelist every time, and I how come I don't remember that? I don't know. So good to see you.
Good to see you too. So
Yeah. So I had a great time with this guy from that had been in Vietnam, and then he was a SWAT officer and an amazing guy, and he got his head blown practically off, and tells a story of where he was like hanging on to his gun. He was on a PT boat, and everybody was firing at him, and he's like unconscious, and he wakes up and he's hanging onto his gun, and he's like just inches away from the river, and somehow he gets pulled up, and he goes through all that. He's been through 2 neck surgeries, 3 back surgeries. He then was a SWAT officer in the police for many years, and he does all these exercises. He does some really cool breathing exercises. His mindset is great. He's the happiest guy you'd ever meet. And he did something yesterday. He was over visiting, and he threw his leg up on something that was about shoulder height, and then started to stretch like a ballerina. And he says, "Yeah, do this, Ralph, and do this exercise for breathing." And he was showing me all sorts of stuff. And I thought, some people, everybody goes through hard times, and some people, they seem to keep having the same things show up. And you get some people that have neck surgeries, back surgeries, and they do really well. And some other people with the same kind of problem, and they have the same kind of surgery, and their life is ruined. And then there's all the in-between stuff. And some people, it's like what happens to them seems to cause a lot of despair and grief, rightfully so. And other people, it's what catapults them to greatness. And so I thought, let's talk about the lungs, because you talked about the lungs being this detox organ that 70%, I think, was where the detox happens is in the lungs. And we've got the breath of life, and we've got all this grief and sadness and despair right now, and suicide attempts are up 1,200%. So I just thought, just to see what you thought about lungs, anything else you want to talk about, but that was what was on my mind.
Okay. Well, the lungs come in the meridian clock between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. And so when people wake up during that time, that's an indication of some lung issues. They're a major detoxification route. Like we were talking before, about 70% of all the things if we imagine urination and bowel movements as part of our waste deposit, that's only 30%. So imagine all the junk that's coming out 70% out of our lungs. If you put that all in a bag, it'd be quite heavy too.
That's incredible. I had never heard that exactly like that. I didn't realize it was that high, even with all the way.
Yeah. So all those are useful tools, and people do as a protective mechanism. They usually sometimes stop breathing, like they hold their breath, waiting for the next shoe to drop or something like that. So
holding your breath, yeah, that's a term, yeah.
Right, and so we're always, when I'm watching a person and when we're having discussions, I'm watching how they present with their breath a lot of the time. So did you take a breath in? Are you breathing? Can you breathe? All those questions, and what are you holding back on when you're not breathing at the same time?
Yeah, that my friend, he was telling a story about when he was swimming with his grandkids or something, and he decided to go to the bottom of the pool, and he just sat there, just kind of sitting there. And he said he sat there for about 2 minutes, and when he came up, the lifeguard was so freaked out. He's like, "Oh, thank God!" And he goes, "Well, I was just down there relaxing, getting away from things." And he's like this amazing 70-year-old guy that breathes out and breathes in as big as he can, and he does all these movements and exercises and stuff, and he's so happy. And so it seems like the lungs are part of a happiness thing.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that we, on the sick side of things, we should be able to breathe in all different dimensions. So there's the thing called diaphragmatic breathing, where you actually breathe through your stomach, and others breathe from up here. But you should have a universal 3-dimensional expansion of your lungs, right? If you put your hands up here, you actually touch your fingers together. When you take a breath in, there should be like a 1/2 inch separation between the two of them. If you touch your fingers together as you exhale, and you can take a breath in, and you can see, did my right hand move more? Did my left hand move more? And if you keep going down the front of you, you should have that all the way down the front and all the way out to the sides. And, we learned in physical therapy school, you should even actually have that in the back of your muscles, and you could actually see what part of your lung got stuck. And just put a little overpressure on the stuck area, and then say, I got to lift that I push a little harder, my job is to figure out how I can lift my rib cage up to that side versus the other side. So we should be independent enough to be able to move one side versus the other. And people should notice that they have a lot more energy if they're doing that instead of just breathing from the top of the lungs or breathing from the bottom of the lungs.
Man, that's a great exercise. I remember I fell a year or so ago running twice in the same day, and it really hurt my ribs here, and I can feel that side doesn't expand quite as much as the other side right now. So
Yeah,
that's a good exercise.
so those are useful for the lungs to do, but I think we hold in a lot of despair, guilt, and grief in our lungs. So holding our breath versus smoking, and we have now e-cigarettes, which seem to be twice as bad for lungs and they're starting to report that there's a 30 or 40% increase of younger people that are catching the COVID if they're doing e-cigarettes.
And why do you think people smoke and do cigarettes? Why would somebody? Is there a underlying thing that makes somebody susceptible to that, or like, are they trying to protect themselves somehow from something, or what do you think that's about?
Well, some clients come in and say, "You're going to make me stop smoking," and I turn it around to say, "If I get you healthy enough, your lungs won't want you to smoke anymore." So, in a way to say that, what in this person, what makes them crave the cigarette? There are some addictive behaviors because of the chemicals that are in the cigarette. Tobacco as a historical perspective, or smoke as a historical perspective, has been used in ceremonies, even marijuana and other things like that. If you look at tribal rituals, people have smoked many different things in many different ways, and they would do spiritual healing with it. So even the tobacco wasn't to be smoked every day, but they are. It was used to journey or to do some processing components, and I think we over processed it along the way, and because it makes our mood change. So my basic thought on smoking is that if a person knows that at some level smoking causes cancer and takes us away from our feelings, I try to understand why that person chooses to do that, especially if they've been educated, and not too many people here are not educated that smoking can cause cancer in the future. So it's like, okay, if you smoke, you're almost like, do you drive so fast? Or what are the processes that, that it's a possibility that I'm going to hurt myself or cause myself to get worse. But what is the process of saying, okay, I need this so much, I don't care that I may be killing myself at the same time.
You look for the reason that's going on, and then do that. I know when Jen and she knows if people are having a big campfire out here, it's like I tend to not go, and if I do go, I get very far away because I feel really good around a campfire and smoke. But what I notice is the next day or two, I get really sad. It's
right.
And I did grow up with a dad that, I lived kind of dizzy, a lot of times because we were in the same car and house with smoke. So maybe there's something about that. But yeah, it can definitely affect you on a deep level. But then it's funny that some people choose to use that, and it seems to be a thing that calms them or somehow.
Right. Well, it feels like it numbs them up on many different levels. And, when smoking became big, most of the armed services give you free cigarettes, or cigarettes are free. So it's a way to numb yourself up from your environment in one way or another.
Yeah.
And the tobacco companies, as they were, people in World War I and World War II or the Vietnam War, they were very stressed, and it would calm them down, but it would also numb them up, right? So if you're taking a hot fire and pulling it into your lungs, it decreases your amount of oxygen, so you can't think as well. It also closes the capillary beds in the body, so it also doesn't bring, so your mind gets shut off with that whole process. I have some very
Calms the mind a little bit.
super intelligent, super spiritual people that have PhDs, they're professors, they're highly educated, but they still need to go back to the cigarette at least once a day. And I have one client, I say to him, okay, still smoking? He goes, yeah, I just need my 2 puffs in the morning and I can get over it. And it's like, okay, how do we facilitate this? We've tried breathing exercises. So something inside at a subconscious level is trying to emerge, and it feels like he just knows that he can't handle it, so he puts it down a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think Barack Obama was smoking. He's a smoker, from what I heard.
Right. Well, I think it seemed like when he went back to the president, he started smoking again. So a little stress there, right?
And then there's positions in that red book, this book. We call it the red book, It's
Yep.
me and Sharon were responsible.
So there's a couple amazing ones for the lungs themselves, and there's the diaphragms, which are above and below the lung tissue.
And I've thought about this. I'm just like, Sharon, and you contributed so much to helping people heal. The diaphragm techniques, the cranial diaphragm, the thoracic diaphragm, subclavius muscles, and the pelvic diaphragm. I think that's one of the best inventions of all time. That alone, just to let things flow, is giant. Right. And you can I figured out how to do them to myself if I ever want to. But the lung one especially is very simple to do for yourself. So
right. Yeah. So, and we just had a new generation come out that we actually worked under the diaphragm, the respiratory diaphragm. So I designed 5 techniques that can be done self-induced better, that you can actually take the liver and the pancreas and the spleen and get it down, and breathing absolutely changes there too.
Wow, that is cool. Well, we'll have to get a way to help you get that out to the world in a way that's useful. So we'll talk about that some more. It's interesting. The lungs are a negative pressure. They're a vacuum. And so one thing they do, I think one of the reasons they may be so powerful to get them healed to help the rest of the body is they're a negative vacuum. Things get attracted to a vacuum. So the liver and all those organs weigh less in the body if the lungs are working better, right?
Yep. So every time you take a breath, it's like an umbrella opening and closing. So when you exhale, your diaphragm's here and the lungs are squished. And when you squeeze your diaphragm, that pulls down and the lungs expand, sort of like a old fire bellow of sucking in and out air. And you have to have the organs underneath be able to move too. So what happens to your liver and your pancreas when your diaphragm's moving? And the iPhone posture or the cellular phone posture, being in and looking like this, really cramps that style. So there's been some articles written on how that sitting in that crimped style makes people sicker. And there was one article on the iPhones are causing fatty liver.
Okay. Wow, interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of people, I don't know too many, maybe in people who study visceral manipulation understand this. I'm not even sure if a lot of osteopaths understand, but they never really appreciate what your body has to go through. So if I'm breathing and my diaphragm goes down, what happens to the rest of everybody underneath it, right? And so the diaphragm actually is massaging and helping the liver do its detoxification process, because as it pushes down, it has to scrub forward. It's like twisting out the towel.
Yeah.
Right? So every time we take a breath, it's actually squeezing the liver, and things squirt out. And as we exhale, it takes more blood in. So it's this constant pumping. And if we're in a sitting compromised position, we don't get that all day long.
Wow. So that exercise that my friend gave me was real simple, which is basically just breathe in as far as you can through your nose slowly And when you get to the very end, you just keep it there. He kind of likened it like you're letting more oxygen come in, and then and breathe out through your lips, and just let it go all the way down till you can't even breathe any more out, and then hold that for a second, and just do that. He does it to classical music, but I did some of that with him, and did some other exercise that he has. He has one called the dead roach, where you lay on your back and you point your feet and your hands to the ceiling, and you do that exercise again. He said the Navy SEALs, they would hike with their, up the mountain with their 50 pounds, and at the top they'd be exhausted, and they would do the dead roach for 5 minutes, and then they were like totally ready to roll again. So getting that oxygen in,
Yeah.
it's a powerful thing.
And I think there was another Navy SEAL technique of how to breathe a little bit quicker, so you deplete your oxygen, you can go sleep a little bit faster sometimes too. I don't remember the whole piece of it, but yeah, milking the lungs in many different ways. And before I read your notes on what we were going to discuss today, my last client, I had to teach him how to use his lungs again. So it's a long day today.
Oh
Right.
man, it's a long day. It's so cool how synchronous it works. It really, I think it connects you more as you let go of some of the mental, emotional stuff that's in the way, the past, all that junk. I've noticed that synchronicity, that's way of living, a serendipity kind of way of going, happens more and more when you, and it makes some sense, a lot of sense. Like if you're in a state of joy, good stuff seems to be attracted to you. People like to be around you. The negative people don't like to be around you. So it's really powerful. Would fixing up the physical lungs, like just physical stuff, like, we'll get the way to get your techniques out to people, your new ones, and then some of the other ones from IMT that help the ribs expand and help the lungs expand and exchange oxygen. The physical, just getting the physical lungs, does that fix up the mental, emotional, spiritual lungs, like the grief, loss, people dying in people's lives, that stuff? Or do you have to go right at that stuff too?
It's a connection, but if you have an appreciation that you may be holding some grief in there or holding some sadness, again, when we stop moving, we stop feeling. So if we start to try to do these breathing exercises, we may have more vivid dreams, more sensations. But if we know that that's an attachment to that, it's a time to go process it. But if you don't have the space to feel safe, if it's a really inconvenient time and you really get pissed off and angry at other things, or your neck gets sore. So there is really,
when we stop moving, we stop what?
We stop feeling.
Feeling, yeah.
Okay. And the reason we hold our breath, the reason we start to smoke, the reason we don't do this could have been in the first place is I have to stop that feeling from happening. So I'm going to shorten my breath so I don't have to recognize that anymore.
That is so key. Yeah, because the awful thing, it's awful to have things that cause, things that bring up loss. People die, bad stuff happens. You lose your way of life. You don't get to hang out with your friends anymore. You're lonely. That feeling is an awful, awful, awful feeling. And so that starts to make some sense why somebody would smoke. They don't want to feel it. They hold their breath. They don't want to feel it. They hunker down and just don't stop moving. They don't want to feel it. So if you just, we're doing so it's a way to start to feel again. We're doing the movements and starting to feel, can it bring up bad stuff then?
Depends what you consider bad. So any feeling is a good feeling. So, but most people don't think that way, right? And we're using two words here, Ralph. We're really using the word think, and we use the word feel.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't want to feel bad stuff. But if we don't, there's no real bad anything, right?
It's the thinking about it, calling it bad. Yeah.
Right. So if we think, that's more like a mind energy, right? And so a lot of us have been trained not to feel. So my wife Sharon passed away over 5 years ago, and I still try to touch the grief every day. I try to go into that, and it brings me closer to feeling her. And then I can remember the joy of the things that we had together. But a lot of people would not want to hear that I can touch my grief.
No, they want
They're
to stay away
afraid
from
of
it.
it. They're
Yeah,
going to say that's a bad feeling.
yeah,
It's part of human nature. You know, we measure ourselves by the losses we have sometimes.
yeah,
So, you know, when people say that's uncomfortable, it's still one of our experiences, right? So,
feel it.
yeah. So for a lot of probably 80%, 90% of the population, they don't want to touch any pain. They want to go into it. But those are designed to make sure that we're on track, you know, keep us steady. To go back to one of my mentors saying, you know, pain and discomfort is like the smoke alarm in your house. It's really useful before the fire starts, but if you take the batteries out of the smoke alarm and you shut it down, then everything gets to be burned out. So if you don't listen to the small pains or the discomforts, then you're going to have something that's irreversible in that whole process.
Yeah, and there's a guy, Michael Singer, in his book, The Surrender Experiment, talks about the little stuff, like somebody cutting you off and road rage, your spouse saying one little thing and it upsets you. If you don't go and feel that, if you can't get through that, you're not going to be able to handle the big stuff. Like you should also feel the little stuff,
Right.
not try to run away from those things too. Not easy to do, but once you realize the importance of it, it's so valuable because you're not going to like it's not making it go away. You're just creating a whole network of protection around it. It takes a lot of energy away from your healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Some things drive some people, like entrepreneurs. Why would you be an entrepreneur sometimes? It's like, you know, people building businesses, especially nowadays, there's lots of online businesses. And I have lots of friends that are doing great things and they have really good reasons for it. And if you talk to them a bit about their past, it's like, oh, wow, they're healing old wounds. You know, they're trying to fix things from their mom or their dad or something that happened. And some people go through it and just go get giant. Like one of my mentors, Russell Brunson, it's the guy that we use for our software thing. He back in 2014, he was about to go to jail for nothing he did wrong, and he had lost all his money, and he was hanging Christmas lights up and hadn't told his wife yet that they were going that bad, and he figured it out, and now his company is a $300 million a year company, but he's still the humblest guy, and then yet there's other entrepreneurs that are that have their own versions of pain and stuff they're going through, and they haven't got to the success that they want yet to take care of their family or their friends or their causes of who they want to donate to. And it seems like there's some other kind of thing. Maybe there's still a protection or something that they haven't dealt with. When you think of the lungs, some people have big problems and they somehow rise. It becomes something that creates something big. And some people, it's like their story and it's why they failed. What do you think? Does IMT have a thing for that? Or, you know, when you think of that, what do you think about?
We're all on a journey. So everybody's journey is slightly different. And, you know, what attracts us and doesn't attract us is part of our healing cycle. So I totally agree with you that, you know, some people are trying to work it out. And if I reflect on my own personal journey of healing, I became this good of a healer because I needed the answers of protecting from a very abusive childhood. So.
And you're still on a journey. Like you guys had many clinics all over the world, and beautiful Sharon. And then it was it's different now, and you're having a different version. So it seems like, and Tony Robbins almost died last year because he went from a vegetarian to eating tuna, and he wasn't able to methylate it, and he lost a lot of his blood and almost died. Everybody's got. There's another guy that one of the entrepreneurs in our group makes millions of dollars a year, but he's so sad. He posted a post of he lives alone now, and the COVID thing is making him feel fearful to even see his parents, and so it's everybody's got their version. It seems like it cycles up like a wave and cycles down. Like there's different layers of and now you're like aspiring, you're successful, you got a failure, and it
Right.
goes over and over. What is that all about? The words of wisdom.
Some people say when you figure out what you were doing in this lifetime, you clean up everything, then you can transcend to the next level very easily.
So don't go be too fast on it, or else you're gonna.
Right. This is just a bus stop on the way to getting more transcended. So we have to, and we're burning off, some people call it karma. We're burning off lots of different processes along that way. So
Yeah.
it's always been interesting.
Yeah, it has. One of the wonderful things about IMT, many wonderful things, is there was ways like, putting your hand on the bridge of the nose and the hand on the heart to
Yep.
burn off the rage and the survival stuff. These real big challenges are great opportunities to clear more junk in us. So yeah.
Yeah. We try to keep everything in alignment. And if you're listening, new stories, like you said, pop open and synchronicity happens to you. The book, The Secret, was a big seller for a while. So all those are interesting ways of bringing things together for enlightenment in ourselves.
Yeah, the obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is cool. So I'm gonna, if it's okay, can I end this session, but keep you on the line for just a second?
Sure.
Okay, because I'm gonna talk to Tom about some stuff to help bring some of his healing to you, and I'll fill you guys in. Right now, go to info@imtwellnesscenter.com to email Tom, or imtwellnesscenter.com to get all of his info and get on his list. And he gives you lots of free stuff and lots of free Zoom sessions on healing. And then you can find me at autoimmuneanswers.com. And yeah, let's heal ourselves and heal the world. Sharon used to say her job was to get people healthy enough to get on their surfboard, to take their wave. And she always said she wasn't making mini me's. And she sure seems to have created a lot of us doing our own version of stuff. So forever grateful to Sharon.
Thanks. Okay, Ralph, we'll talk next week.
Okay, let me cancel this recording and stop the sharing.